Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 25th of August 2023. In today's newspaper discussion, we are going to cover some topics that were there in the editorial section, and also we are going to cover other topics, right? So let us quickly see the list of topics that we are going to cover in today's discussion. So these are the topics that we'll be covering in today's discussion. Along with this, we are going to cover these 3 additional articles. So in all, we are going to cover about 8 articles in today's discussion. So let us start the discussion with the first topic. So this topic is related to international relations. Okay, it's part of international relations. It's important for GS paper 2 of the mains exam. And also it is important for the prelims exam as well, because we are going to talk about important international institutions and important international groupings. So let's discuss about this topic. Here, the topic has been written by a former foreign services officer, a retired foreign services officer. So this person has actually served in the, let's say, in the African continent. And the author has mentioned about India's G20 opportunity for an African Renaissance. Means since currently India is holding the presidency of G20. So India should be leveraging its position as the, let's say, hosting nation of G20 for this year. And the author is talking about that the African continent serves as an opportunity for India. And India can harness this opportunity through different platforms like G20, BRICS and other such platforms wherever India and African countries are together. So now in this article, the author has mentioned that recently in the BRICS summit, right, the BRICS summit that has happened, where India has participated in Johannesburg in South Africa. There many African countries have participated in that particular BRICS summit. They have been invited to participate in this, in that thing. So the author says these forums must be utilized by the Prime Minister of India and by India to leverage India's position towards Africa. And the author says that India and Africa has had deeper ties, right? It has had deeper ties historically. The ties, let's say, between India and Africa, let's extend, right, hundreds of years back. So during Mahatma Gandhi's time, right? So during his time, he has visited South Africa and he has, let's say, started his satyagraha, right, against apartheid. Okay, he has started his satyagraha against apartheid. And recently, in the United Nations peacekeeping missions also, India has supported, right, those peacekeeping operations in Africa. However, the author also cautions that Africa is a region that is going through a phase of turmoil, especially the Sahel region of Africa. Sahel region of Africa is the northern belt of Africa. Okay, so we have recently seen one of the African nation, Niger. So there the military has toppled the civilian government that was in power, right? So it has toppled and it has taken into custody the president of Niger. So similar, let's say, military coup has happened earlier also in various other African nations, and those African nations include the Somalia. It includes many other countries, okay, in African region. So the author says that Africa and India has deeper ties, and also not only Africa, means South Africa, with South Africa we have deeper ties, but Africa as a continent has 54 countries as part of it, and all those 54 countries do have something in common with India. So India can leverage its potential, and the author has also talked about that in African continent, China has initiated many many developmental ties, and some of those developmental ties has come to a standstill because many of the African countries were not able to pay back the debt to China. And since they were not able to pay back the debt to China, so most of the territories of Africa has come under the control of China. Means they have taken control of some of the ports, some of let's say those infrastructures where China has invested heavily. So now the author says that India also has opportunity. India should look into those areas, right? those areas where Indian government, where Indian businesses can start operating, where we can have more diplomatic ties, right? So this is what mentioned by the author in this article. So author has in all, summarized by saying that by presenting itself as a more participative and less exploitative alternative, okay, means like China is an exploitative country. It has participated, but like it has exploited many of the resources, right? It has exploited many countries, right? It has put those countries into debt. So author says by presenting itself as a more participative and less exploitative alternative, India can make its ties with Africa a win-win ecosystem for the 21st century, okay? So for 21st century, India can make it a win-win situation for Africa, okay? So this is the thing. So with this, we will move to the next topic. In your free time, you can go through this article to understand about some of the forums that the author has discussed. Author has talked about BRICS. Author has talked about the United Nations General Assembly. Author has discussed about Global South and all. So most of these concepts we have already discussed in our previous The Hindu newspaper discussions. Now this is the second topic that we are going to discuss. This topic is about appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners into the Election Commission of India. So this topic is important under Indian polity section, okay, under Indian polity section. So this is important under GS paper 2, okay, it's important under GS paper 2 of the mains exam. So let's discuss about what is the update related to it, okay. So in the Constitution of India, it is mentioned what is the standing of the Election Commission. In the Constitution itself, there is a mention how the election commissioners have to be appointed, how the Chief Election Commissioner have to be appointed. However, recently there was a Supreme Court hearing related to the matter of appointment of election commissioners and Chief Election Commissioner. So at that point of time, the Supreme Court of India has asked the government that why did you not make any law related to appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners into the Election Commission of India. Since the government of India did not have any, right, it did not have any law in that regard. So that's why then the Supreme Court of India, the bench has recommended that by the time that you come up with this, with an act or with a law to appoint, right, Chief Election Commissioners and election commissioner. So in that case, the Supreme Court of India has recommended that for appointing Chief Election Commissioners or election commissioner, there can be a 3-member body, okay, there can be a 3-member board, and that 3-member board will include the Prime Minister of India, right, it will include the, let's say, leader of opposition, okay, leader of opposition, and also it will include the Chief Justice of India, okay. Meanwhile, means like when the central government has not made any law, so it will include these 3 people who are going to constitute the 3-member body who are going to appoint Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners. So this was a judgment given by the Supreme Court of India. Now the government of India has placed, right, a bill in the Parliament of India, and in that bill, okay, they have introduced a bill which is known in the Rajya Sabha, and this bill is known as Election Commission, comprising the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners, okay. So this bill has been introduced by the this bill has been introduced by the present ruling party, and that ruling party has mentioned, okay, that so what is the name of the bill? We will first talk about it, okay. So that bill actually has been placed into the Rajya Sabha, but that bill says one of the appointing party would be the Prime Minister of India, then it will be the leader of the opposition, and the 3rd member will be a cabinet minister, cabinet minister. So the thing is now people are pondering upon that like the ruling party will have the Prime Minister of India, it will have a cabinet minister. So two persons will come from the same party, okay, they will come from the same party, and the leader of opposition will be in minority. So if the leader of opposition is in the minority, so in that case, will the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners be fair? Is it going to be fair? So that was the question, like, you know, that was the question with which, let's say, like one of the editor of The Hindu has interacted with two prominent people, okay. So these two prominent people are, one is Mr. O.P. Rawat, he has been the former Chief Election Commissioner of India, and the other person is Jagdeep Chokkar, okay, he is the founding member of the Association for Democratic Reforms, okay, he is the founding member of the Association of Democratic Reforms. So these two people have interacted with the editor of The Hindu, and editor of The Hindu has asked, let's say, many questions. The questions like, you know, that the bill which is known as the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment, condition of service and term of office bill 2023. So this is the name of the bill, okay. So this bill also talks about that there will be a cabinet minister in the 3-member body, cabinet minister, the prime minister and leader of opposition. So they have asked about that, like, you know, whether this is right, So like, you know, they have answered, Mr. O.P. Rawat has answered that, like, you know, the Supreme Court has asked the government to make a law in that regard, and meanwhile they have, you know, proposed that these 3 members will be there, the Chief Justice of India, Prime Minister and leader of opposition. So they say like there is no contradiction in all, and the bill that the let's say government has introduced in the Rajya Sabha, it will only be passed after debates in both the houses of the parliament. In the both the houses, if other parties, let's say if other parties are agreeing to it, right, then it will become a law, and otherwise also the Supreme Court of India will have the authority to review, right, to review the laws that are passed through the parliament, because final interpreter of the Constitution of India is the Supreme Court of India, and also all the laws that are made for India, I mean, like, you know, they can be reviewed, right, they can be reviewed by the Supreme Court of India. So they say there is no contradiction in that regard. And in this article, many such questions has been asked, questions like, is there any substance to the perception that the Election Commission will now be more amenable to the executive wishes? Now, this question has been asked by the editor by considering that this bill that has been introduced will be passed as it is, where like it will be having a cabinet minister, the prime minister and leader of opposition. So they have asked that, like, you know, if these 3-member bodies are going to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners, so in that case, is it going to, let's say, hamper the autonomy of the Election Commission of India? Like, is it going to make the Election Commission of India to, let's say, walk under the directions directly of the ruling party? So these are the concerns that have been answered by these people. They say that, like, you know, the Election Commission of India has so far walked under this particular thing that the ruling party used to appoint, right, used to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners, okay. So there is a procedure also in that regard, okay. So the existing Chief Election Commissioner make a recommendation to the President for appointment of election commissioners, and the President finally appoints the election commissioners. And the Chief Election Commissioner, okay, Chief Election Commissioner, let's say, has a security of tenure, okay, he has a security of tenure, means the Chief Election Commissioner of India can be removed from the office only, like, you know, only in a, like, you know, similar to how a judge of the Supreme Court of India can be removed. I mean, like, you know, for removing a judge of the Supreme Court of India, there has to be a, let's say, impeachment motion. So the thing is, like, you know, there are set procedures, right, that the government has to follow, and that has to be passed from both the houses of the parliament, okay. So one house conducts inquiry, then there will be, let's say, like n number of people, around 100 people, they have to sign the petition. Then, like, you know, it has to be passed from one house, then it will go to the second house. So it's a very difficult task to remove a judge of the Supreme Court of India. Similarly, removal of the Chief Election Commissioner is not an easy task. Apart from this, in this article, they have mentioned that this particular bill, which has been introduced by the ruling party, which has been introduced in this bill, they have mentioned that the salary that will be drawn by the Chief Election Commissioner will be at par with the let's say cabinet secretary, okay, of the government of India. However, like earlier it was mentioned that it will be at par with the judge of the Supreme Court of India. Like nominally, if we talk about exact amount, if we talk about the salaries are same, okay, salaries of the cabinet secretary and judges of the Supreme Court of India are same. However, earlier there was a mention of the judge of the Supreme Court of India. Now there is a mention of, okay, there is a mention of, let's say, cabinet secretary. So now they are saying that, like, although the amount of money does not, let's say, remuneration is not different, however, like, there was a prestige attached to it earlier, like, when when they used to appoint people according to the, let's say, earlier procedures. So that is also debated in this particular article. They have also talked about that, like, election commissioner becomes a chief election commissioner, and they have the same tenure of 6 years. Now here in this article they are saying that chief election commissioner hardly serves for a period of 2 years or 3 years. Here they have recommended that, like, one of the recommendation is the chief election commissioner can be appointed for a period of 6 years. So that should be a separate tenure that should be given, and also age restriction can be removed. Okay, so currently there is a age restriction that beyond this age that person is going to retire. So here they have mentioned that age restriction can be removed from here. So this article has been rightly written. I mean, like, this answers many of the queries that you might be having when, previously there was an article in The Hindu itself where they have talked about, okay, they have talked about similar provisions that, like, that government is going to come up with a bill in this regard. So one of the students from GS Foundation batch has asked me a question on this regard. We had a discussion also on the chat. So like it is a good topic, I would say. So with this, like, we have another topic. It says Modi she call for, like, speedy disengagement along LAC. So LAC stands for line of actual control. Line of actual control is the border line between India and China. And in this particular borderline between India and China, there are tensions going on, because from Chinese side, we have seen there is aggression. They are trying to cross over the border. They are going to, let's say, trying to come to India, right? They are trying to come capture the bordering areas. And that has been resisted by the Indian Army. Indian Army has, let's say, like, put so much effort to resist that particular thing. However, there is a standoff between the armies of China and India, okay? People Liberation Army of let's say, China and Indian Army of India. So that is standoff. I mean, like, we have also stationed our troops there. They have also stationed our troops. So that standoff is still ongoing. And recently, the Prime Minister of India has visited Johannesburg, the South Africa, right, for attending the BRICS summit. There, the Premier of China, Mr. Xi Jinping, also visited there. Okay, so there, these two leaders, the Prime Minister of India and Chinese Premier, they had, let's say, direct talks between them, and both of them have agreed that, like, they need to speed up the disengagement along line of actual control. What do we mean by disengagement? Disengagement means, like, from both the side, now they are not going to carry on any aggression related activities on the border areas. Okay, so they are going to disengage from any kind of, let's say, tussle between the armies. Okay, so this has been said, and this is a good, let's say, development, because it is going to bring peace in the border between India and China. Okay, so this is a good thing that has been talked about. So this is an important thing, because, like, you need to know what are the current things that are going on related to this. Now we have another topic. This topic is related with the previous topic that we have discussed. Here they have mentioned that BRICS decides to include 6 new members. Okay, so BRICS is a grouping of 5 countries. It has Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. And recently the 15th annual summit of BRICS has happened in Johannesburg in South Africa, and there the Indian Prime Minister has participated, Chinese Premier has participated, the Russian President has participated virtually through online means. Okay, then Brazil's President has also participated. So all these countries have participated in the meeting, and they have decided based on consensus, means like all the existing members have agreed to include 6 new members into BRICS. Okay, so far 40 countries have showcased their interest to join BRICS. However, 19 countries have formally written, made formal applications to join BRICS grouping. Out of those countries, only 6 countries have been included as let's say members of BRICS. Now BRICS, BRICS earlier had 5 members. Now 6 members joined. Now what is the total strength? How many countries are part of BRICS? Now there are 11 countries part of BRICS, right? So BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. So who are those members who have who have joined the BRICS grouping? So these members are, okay, these members, their names are mentioned over here. Okay, so now they have included the United Arab Emirates, they have included Iran, they have included Saudi Arabia, okay, and they have included Egypt, they have included Argentina. Okay, so these countries have joined: Argentina, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia and United Arab Emirates. So these are the 6 countries that have joined. It is very important for you to remember the name of the new countries that have joined. Okay, so I am going to write the name of new countries or new entrants, right, who have joined the BRICS grouping. What is the name of these new countries? One of the country is Argentina. Okay, Argentina. So let's say Argentina is the 6th country who have joined. Argentina. Then the 7th country is Egypt. Okay, Egypt. Then 8th country that has joined, it's Iran. Okay, Iran. 9th country that has joined, it's Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Okay, 10th country that has joined is Ethiopia. And the 11th country that has joined is United Arab Emirates, in short UAE. So these 6 countries, okay, these 6 countries, in all, earlier there were 5 BRICS nations. Now these 6 countries have also joined. Effectively now there are 11 countries that are part of this particular grouping. Okay, this particular grouping. So it is important that you remember the name of these countries, okay, because it will help you to solve questions in the prelims exam. Okay, so it is important that you remember name of these countries. So we have a question, we need to solve this question. This question is for the prelims exam. Now it says with reference to, okay, just a minute. Okay, now we have, let's say, our topic that we are going to discuss. It says Chandrayaan rover has begun mobility operation, says ISRO. So as we all know that Indian Space Research Organization has made a soft landing on the south pole of the moon. Okay, so Chandrayaan 3 has made a soft landing, the lander of Chandrayaan 3. Okay, so lander has made a soft landing, and so as part of lander, inside lander there was a rover also. Okay, this rover is named as Pragyan rover. Okay, so this rover actually has started functioning. Okay, so it has started functioning, it has started, let's say, moving. Okay, which is also known as roving on the surface of the moon. So this is an update that was given by the ISRO chairman. So they have said that there are 2 instruments in the rover and 3 instruments on board the lander, and all of them have been switched on sequentially. Okay, so these rover and lander, they are working together. Okay, so they are working, and so rover is functional now. Okay, so this is just an update. Yesterday I had taken a detailed discussion on Chandrayaan 3, right? So you can attend that particular discussion to understand about various things related to the Chandrayaan 3 mission, how it makes India one of the, let's say, like, roadmap setter in the among the spacefaring nations in the world. So that we have discussed earlier. So with this, we are going to solve this question. Okay, this question says, with reference to Pragyan rover, name of the rover is Pragyan. Okay, consider the following statements. One of the statements says it will measure the ions and electrons density and the thermal properties as a part of the mission. This statement is right. Second statement, it will check the chemical composition of the lunar surface. Okay, so these are objectives of the, let's say, Chandrayaan mission. Then third, it says it will relay the data back to the earth. Okay, so rover is not directly going to relay back the data. Rover is going to send the data to the lander, and that lander is going to relay the data to the earth. Okay, so that's why third statement is incorrect. So correct answer would be only two. Only two of the above statements are correct. Okay, so that's why option B will be the right answer in this case. So with this, like, we will move to the next topic quickly. Now we have another topic. It says means used must be consistent with the ends achieved. CGI on dissolution of Article 370. Okay. So the Supreme Court of India is hearing the matter related to abrogation of Article 370. Article 370 pertains to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Factually, erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. So in 2019, the central government of India has abrogated this particular article, and then they have, let's say, taken away the statehood of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. They have converted Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Union Territory of Ladakh. So Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has a state legislative assembly. However, Ladakh does not have a state legislative assembly. There are many people who have filed cases in the Supreme Court of India, and from the petitioner side, okay, so they are making a lot of arguments in the Supreme Court of India, and this case is being heard by a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court of India. The constitutional bench of the Supreme Court of India comprises of 5 senior most judges of the Supreme Court of India. So they are hearing the matter, and recently the Chief Justice of India has made an observation that the means that the government has adopted to achieve an end. So the means used must be consistent with the let's say ends achieved. Okay. So the Chief Justice of India has mentioned this particular thing, and so many such statements have been made in the past also. So all of those things I have included in our previous discussions. So you can watch our previous The Hindu newspaper analysis also to understand how the case has progressed so far. Okay. So Supreme Court of India is actually hearing the case related to abrogation of Article 370. Okay. So you can go through this article also to understand a little more. Now, this topic is important from geopolitical point of view. It's important from Indian economy point of view also. So this has relevance to GS paper 2 and also with GS paper 3. Now what is this topic all about? It says India and the Northern Sea route. Okay, India and the Northern Sea route. As all of us know that all the trades that happen, right, trades that we do with other countries, the trades that are done in the external sector. So those trades, the goods are supplied, mostly the goods are supplied through sea routes, because sea routes are capable of carrying heavy weights. Okay, they are capable of carrying heavy weights. More than 95% of the world trade that happens, right, the trade that India does with other countries, or the world that they do, so it happens through sea routes. And here in this article they have mentioned about Northern Sea route. So the red line that we see over here, they talk about the western part of the Northern Sea route. So here we have, let's say, this is one of the Northern Sea route, one of the part, the dashed line, the blue color, and then this is also, let's say, part of western part of northern sea route, eastern part of northern sea route. So these are, let's say, like, various ports. Northern sea route connects various ports. For example, this is Murmansk, then there is, let's say, like, like Amderma. So there are many ports across the world. So most of these ports are connected with the northern sea route. And northern sea route, I mean, like, India also does its export import business through the northern sea route, and more than 35% of India's trade that happens with other countries, it happens through northern sea route. So northern sea route plays a very, very important role, okay, here. Okay, now if we talk about this particular map, in this map there are some dashed line and there are some solid line. If I talk about the dashed line, this is known as high altitude transit route. This dashed blue line, it is high altitude transit route. Apart from this, the solid blue line, it is northern sea route. This solid blue line that we see here, now this is northern sea route. Okay, then we have dashed red line. This is northern sea route water area boundary. Okay, this dashed line. So these are the things, I mean, like, the northern sea route is used. And recently, let's say, like, one of the author, I mean, like, he has visited the northern sea route. He has been invited to participate in one of the organization, right, that participates in trade related activity and security activity in northern sea route. So that person has written an article on this, right. In this article they have mentioned. So here what they have mentioned, I'm going to briefly read out this to you so that you understand it in detail. It says, India's involvement in Murmansk cargo traffic has increased significantly, with the country handling 35% of the cargo at Murmansk port in 2023. So we have handled 35% of the cargo in one of the port, which is known as Murmansk cargo. Okay, Murmansk port. Then it says Arctic region's vulnerability due to climate change could impact India's economic and water security as well as sustainability. Then it also mentions that India's engagement in the Arctic dates back to 1920, means like it's been about 140, let's say 43 years, or maybe like, around 150 years, that like we have signed Svalbard Treaty and includes various scientific studies and research activities. In let's say, like, we do have our station also, which is known as Himadri. So we have set up a research station, Himadri, in Svalbard, okay, in 2008. So this station is, let's say, to do research on the Arctic climate. In this article, they said that the northern sea route is key focus for India, as it offers the shortest shipping route between Europe and the Asia Pacific. Okay, so this northern sea route is a very, very important sea route because it offers shortest route between Europe and Asia Pacific region. It helps us in doing import export business. So that's why every country around the world, they say that there has to be a rule based international order when it comes to maritime security, when it comes to allowing free navigation of, let's say, like, goods through the ocean routes. Okay, so this is important. So with this, like, we are going to move to the next topic. We are going to solve this question. It says, with reference to the northern sea route, consider the following statements. They have given two statements. One of the statements says, the growth of Murmansk cargo traffic along the northern sea route is on a constant rise. I mean, like, on this particular Murmansk port, there has been a constant rise of the, let's say, traffic, right, on this port. Then it says it offers shortest shipping route between Europe and Asia Pacific region, okay, and also to India. So both these statements are right. Correct answer would be option C, right? Option C is the right answer in this case, right? So like, you may go through the solution also. The explanation is included here, right? Explanation is given. Now we have another topic. This topic is again important because this statement is made by the Prime Minister of India. So it says, Modi seeks level playing field for small e-commerce companies. Okay, e-com means e-commerce companies. So basically, the Prime Minister of India and Indian government, they are going to hold a meeting of G20 in September in Delhi, in New Delhi. So now they have mentioned that Prime Minister of India has a vision that our small e-commerce businesses, right, so they need to be leveraged so that they can also participate in the world trade that happens. So the government of India wants that small and marginal businesses who are, let's say, willing to operate in the e-commerce sector, so their potential needs to be harnessed so that they get the best possible environment, best possible business environment to do business and to grow. And for that, the government of India is thinking of coming up with some new enabling measures that's going to, let's say, reduce the trade barriers, that's going to, let's say, reduce the boundaries or borders or, let's say, barriers that are let's say hampering the growth of these this micro, small and medium enterprises, right, who are working in the e-commerce sector. So now here, Prime Minister of India said that the proposed Jaipur initiative to foster seamless flow of information to MSMEs will address the challenge of inadequate access to market and business related information faced by MSMEs. Okay, so this article has been written to, let's say, highlight what the vision of the Prime Minister of India is. So that's all from my side for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.